It's a season saver. I mean, it is. It's not an exaggeration to say that. It is a season saver. This is the way you turn it around. Like, it takes something jarring to turn around a season.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel presented by Connors and Ferris. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We have a friend of the pod, a regular that we get as the Bills play the Dolphins. Each year, the sports anchor director of WPLG in Miami covers everything in Miami, just doing the Miami Heat game. Got the University of Miami coming up, but he always has his eye on what's going on with the Miami Dolphins. Will Manso joins us. Will, thanks for being with us.
Mike, it's always a pleasure. I wish it wasn't with the Dolphins at 2-5, but this is where we are right now.
It is where we are right now, and I look at this Dolphins team. And look, you look at the stats and you say to yourself, what difference does some of this make? Because it's hard to make out with anything on this team when Tua was out. But Tua came back last week. The offense got going. They were great on third down. Yep. They made plays. You had a 2-score lead. What happened?
Yeah, Mike, it's a tough question because it's a question we've been asking in this town about the Dolphins for about 2 decades. What happened? And the simple answer, though it's a very complex answer, is that they can't figure out how to play complementary football. And it's kind of a coach cliche, hey, we got to play complementary football. But at its most basic level in football, you really do. And it just seems with this team, when the defense plays well, the offense doesn't play well. When the offense and defense plays well, the special teams doesn't play well. And when the offense goes on a streak and scores some points, the defense then quickly allows points. And what we saw on Sunday against Arizona was an offense that put up 27. Tua didn't have any turnovers in his first game back. He was 28 of 38. He threw for 234 yards. He got Tyreek Hill involved. Tyreek had his best game since week 2 when Tua went out. And then the defense fell apart in trying to chase Kyler Murray and make plays in the fourth quarter. And it was one of those, that's so Dolphins. It's like they just find a way. The week before, it was a missed field goal that did them in. And then this week, Jason Sanders hits a 50-yard field goal. But again, then the defense lets them down. So I guess the simplest answer is that when you're a bad football team, you find a way to lose games. And right now, the Dolphins at 2-5 are a bad football team.
Yeah, you've told me before that it comes out quickly amongst the fan base. What same old Dolphins, and what are the Dolphins doing? Where are they now, though? I mean, obviously the record is poor, but there is talent there. You see these flashes. You see the way they lose a game, and the AFC still has a lot of space. I mean, as the Jets are terrible now with all their losses. Baltimore just gets beat. I mean, Houston's got a lot of injuries. Is there still hope?
I think so. I think winning last week would have been a huge step. I think everyone thought, okay, 2-4, you weathered the storm. You went 1-3 without Tua. It wasn't pretty, but you beat Arizona at home. You're 3-4. You go tough test Buffalo, regardless, win or lose, play a good game. You're still in position where, hey, you can get to that 9-10 win point, which you think will get you in. Really, 10 is what you're shooting for. Now, all of a sudden, you lose to Arizona. Now you're facing Buffalo, and you know how tough they are and how difficult a challenge they are to you, having to go on the road especially. So where are they now? I mean, they're staring potentially at 2-6 and in a position where they pretty much can't lose more than 1 or 2 games the rest of the way to make the playoffs. Tua's healthy again and cleared. I mentioned he played well. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith, they've worked with the offense. They've got really nice pieces at running back between Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright. But now the defense you're worried about because you lost Jalen Phillips. You still don't have Bradley Chubb back. Zach Sealer, who was phenomenal for them, one of the more underrated players in the NFL. How bad of a luck is this that in preparation for the Arizona game gets poked in the eye, hit in the eye in practice and missed the game, and he's been out now. So they're in a position now, where it's almost desperation. It's going to take a Hail Mary type miracle play, and it starts against Buffalo, which is the worst place as a Dolphin fan to want it to get some sort of turnaround started.
Let's talk a little bit about Tyreek Hill. We just saw 2 big players move at the trade deadline. When the Bills ended up making their move for Amari Cooper. And then, of course, the Chiefs always find a way to make a move and they get their big receiver. Was there any thought, do you think, of Hill wanting to move on? He seems to, not talking specifically about the incident that happened before the game, but he does seem to really enjoy being in Miami and being with this Dolphins franchise. Do you think there was or is still any talk of moving on from a guy like that?
No. I don't see that happening, and for a couple reasons, Mike. Number one, as you mentioned, Tyreek likes it here. I don't think Tyreek is miserable here. I don't think Tyreek cares, like he's in that position where, like, I got to get out of here. I haven't got any sense of that. I don't think anyone who covers this team, who's around this team, certainly in that locker room, gets a sense of that. Tyreek is happy here. He's had some of his most productive seasons. Obviously, this year with Tua injury, it's been derailed a bit, the incident you mentioned, but I mean, he loves it here. He's got his big contract. They restructured it. They gave him that big deal early in the season. He's happy here. And I think the Dolphins, from their perspective, are still all in, Mike. I mean, they went out, and this organization led by Chris Greer for a long time now. Stephen Ross is in his 80s, their team owner. They want to win now. The window for them is now. So the thought of moving on from Tyreek Hill, of making other deals to either shed salary or get picks for the future is now. And while the present is 2-5, this organization, I think, is still very much buying into, we need to win in this window. We re-signed Tua to the big deal. We have Tyreek Hill. We have Jalen Waddle. We have all the other pieces. We need to win now somehow.
What about the rest of the offense? You see that the trend in this league, I say, where, running has become more and more important. You have Achane. Is this a team? It's funny when you look at that speed and you look at those guys at wide receiver and you look at what Tua likes to do. Do you think they can still be an effective enough running team? Because a team like the Bills has struggled stopping the run. It's almost the better way, I think, to attack them and then hit them with a pass. Do you think they could come in here with a plan to get Achane going? Because he did run well in the first game against the Bills, get him going, and then try to get things lit up with Tyreek and their wide receivers.
Not only, Mike, do I think that, is a good plan or, an idea, I think it should be the plan. And I think sometimes because of Mike McDaniel's early success, the 70-point game last year, the whole motion and movement and the excitement of Tua leading the league in passing yards last year, and the offense, though, really much for the last, I would say, 10, 12 games dating back to last year, has been pretty calm. It's been pretty quiet. It's been that whole open throwing the ball around has kind of died down. When they have now been at their best, and we saw it a few weeks ago against New England, it wasn't the prettiest of wins, but they ran the ball for 40-plus times. And I think sometimes Mike McDaniel has to look at that and get away from the whole sexy offense, throwing it around, get Tua with the 50-yard bombs to Tyreek, and just give the ball to Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, and their rookie Jalen Wright, who's been very explosive when he gets the football. That is a good plan to go into a tough place. What does it do? Number one is it controls the clock, gets the ball away from Josh Allen, keeps the ball away from Buffalo's offense, keeps your defense off the field. But number two is I truly think those are where most of your weapons lie, where you can really get some chunk plays with Achane and those guys I mentioned. So, yeah, not only do I think that's a good idea, I think that should be the plan as they enter this game.
We have to talk about Tua and the concussions. I mean, obviously, everybody in the league sees it. Tua is a well-known player, and two of these incidents with Tua have happened against the Bills. We had the Milano push when he went down in the end zone, then came back in that game, which led to it. And then the last time with DeMar Hamlin when he got hurt. I'll give you my 2 cents from afar. I hear everybody and their brother telling him to retire when that first happened. And I looked at it and thought, okay, maybe that will be the right thing for him. But it's still this man's decision about 100%. His career and his life. And I know he's talking to neurologists. I know he's talking to doctors. When he said that all about the risk, I felt like he felt he needed to really push back on it and say everybody is at risk. It is his choice. Where are you on him coming back to play, and where is the organization in supporting him because he wants to be on the field?
I mean, you and I are aligned, I think, in our thoughts of, to me, a player decides his future, his present and his future. A doctor decides the medical part. Sometimes a player, the decision in the end, for medical reasons, is out of his hands. But once you get the clearance, like, hey, you can continue to play football, everything shows up clear in the scans and the testing and everything, doctors say you're fine. As a player, you absolutely can go back and play. And, Mike, I think the thing that not bothers me, but I think bothers Tua is he doesn't want to be the face of concussions. The organization backs his decisions medically, right, number one, but from a football standpoint, once he's cleared medically. But from Tua's end, he's a football player. Every single football player has the same risk when they take the field. Everybody knows concussions exist. Everyone knows brain injuries exist in football. It is a violent game. Doesn't excuse it, doesn't make it good, doesn't say, hey, that's what it should be. Advances are being made to try to help it. But in Tua's point, I think he looks at it, Mike, and says, Why am I being singled out? Why? Last week in this game, there was a concussion. Last night, I'm watching the Giants game. Their talented running back, Tyrone Tracy, runs for 145 yards. He's knocked out of the game late with a concussion. No one's telling these people to retire. Why are you telling me to retire? I think we know the answer in this, Mike, is because the concussions have happened in a way where, the way he ends up on the field, the posture he has, it just looks, the image, scary. But he's right in the sense that all these players know their risk. And if they're cleared to play, they have every right to play if they want to.
Isn't it? I think part of it too is, again, we watch from afar. I hear what you've said. I hear what other people said. Like, what a good dude he is. What a good teammate he is. The people who are around him love him. He's also a smaller player for the NFL in terms of even for quarterbacks. I mean, we have Josh Allen, all 6'5" of them. I think some of that plays into it a little bit. It makes it feel almost like he is more vulnerable to those type of hits and any kind of hit. I did see him execute a pretty good slide.
That was a heck of a slide.
That is a plus.
The crazy thing is the crowd, you could hear it as he's running. Slide. Oh, right. Yeah. So it's wild that it's gotten to that point, Mike, but because it's become such a narrative to him. And to your point of his size, and I think also Tua gets very aggressive. We've seen him initiate contact. The DeMar Hamlin situation is a perfect example. He should have slid. He should have slid. We know that. He knows that. The contact itself wasn't impactful. Hamlin kind of stopped and he just kind of ran into his stomach and he had a concussion. So is there a medical reason Tua gets more concussions than other? It's seemingly 4 and 5 years, all the things that have happened. There probably is. But again, once he's cleared, he just has to play smart football. And if he's cleared to play, he's going to continue to play.
When I bring up people rooting for Tua as a guy, I mean, look, the brotherhood in the NFL and the players, nobody wants to see injuries. There's guys they root for, but there's players who I think the general consensus in the league is that they're liked and respected. No. I'm in the locker room when we were in Miami, saw you down in Miami, and Deion Dawkins was talking, and he said, man, we're on the sidelines at that point and just in their minds, like, or some, thinking slide to it. Yeah. Like, and when he ran into DeMar, it was, I wouldn't say unnecessary contact, but it was that. My sense wasn't about that play. I mean, Deion's a pretty responsible guy. He loves the league, but he roots for Tua. And he didn't say, like, that guy should quit. He was just like, we don't want to see that happen to anybody. And even though they're competing with him, they like the guy and they want him to do well. And that's what I always get a sense is around the league about Tua.
I agree. I think that you said it perfectly. I mean, Tua is a likable guy. He loves the game. And the one thing, he was a little in his press conference when he first came back, a little defensive because I think he's tired of being labeled that way. But I also think he just wants to show everybody, like, I love football. This is what I live for. This is what I love. And the window that I have to play, whether it's 3 to 5 years or 10 years, I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. And I think players see that, they gravitate to him. He's a likable guy. He's done a nice job in the community as well. We're all rooting for him from a football standpoint, but also from a health standpoint. And I think that's where this, because of what's happened, where it all comes together.
All right, before we get to the defense, because there's a few players I wanted to ask you about. I want to ask you about where Mike McDaniel is now, because obviously an innovative guy, a lot of people excited about things that he's done. He gets some attention. He's a different type of NFL head coach.
That's a good way to put it.
Where is he with the organization now?
Well, I mean, look, they gave him a contract extension aligned with Tua's contract through 2028 right before the season. So obviously they feel confident, two consecutive playoff appearances. They expected obviously bigger things than a 2-5 start, but I don't think anyone in the organization is jumping ship on Mike McDaniel. I'll tell you who's probably jumping ship a little bit of them, and that's fans. But you can't build football teams and build your future around what fans think or what media think, by the way. I mean, you have to, as an organization, look at what you want. Look at the person in charge and say, is this person leading me in the right direction? And he's still got the full faith and confidence of Stephen Ross, the owner, of Chris Greer, the general manager. And I don't think in any way has he lost that locker room, Mike. I think players just, everybody's frustrated. They lost Tua. They couldn't win games. They've lost some close games. And again, one day it's the defense, one day it's the special teams. For a 4-game stretch, they were averaging 10 points a game on offense without Tua. But I think Mike McDaniel, his biggest thing now is this is the first real rough patch in his career. He's been that guy, the excitement, the offense. And yeah, he's lost 2 playoff games, but they're felt like there was an upward trajectory with this organization, and now that's stalled. And if anything, taken a notch down. It's the biggest adversity he's had to face as a head coach. And I think that the organization and the team wants to see how he handles it. How is he going to handle his 2-5 start? Are the Dolphins going to go 6-11 and be terrible? Or are they going to turn this thing around and flirt with a playoff berth? And that's what the rest of the season, I think, is going to dictate for McDaniel.
All right, let's look at the defensive side. And before I get to some of the other players, I want to ask you about Jordan Poyer. Very popular guy in Buffalo. It's funny because he's a guy from spends his time in South Florida. He's always talked about the Dolphins, and he makes the move and he goes to Miami. He's been a great player in this league. He did slow down a little. Where do you see Poyer, and what has he brought to this team? How has he helped or maybe not helped with this defense?
I think it's the problem, Mike, is that with a player like Jordan Poyer, a lot of it is leadership, right? Experience, getting guys in the right place, making plays. He was injured early on and had the issues to get on the field. Gets on the field, the team struggles. You don't have a lot of pieces. Again, the pieces of what we thought this defense might be. They go out and get Kendall Fuller to put away on Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Phillips works hard to come back. He gets injured again. Bradley Chubb's still not back. I mentioned Zach Sealer. There are so many moving parts in this defense that it's been really hard for Jordan Poyer to make any kind of significant impact. Now, does he make an impact in the locker room? Does he make an impact from a leadership standpoint? Absolutely. He's as well respected of a player as there is in the league, But I think when a team is 2-5, when a team can't anything go their way, it's hard for a Jordan Poyer or any veteran to come in and truly make an impact. And I think his impact from that perspective probably hasn't been as significant as some had hoped. But I do think that as the season goes on, the leaders of this team have to be the veterans that drag them out of this hole. And Jordan Poyer has to be one of those players.
What about Calais Campbell? You talk about a respected guy, an absolute mountain of a person. I was at the Super Bowl one year, and he was getting the Man of the Year award. And I was with Mark Dalton from the Cardinals. And I'm standing there, and because he was with the Cardinals, and he's getting and I'm thinking, this might be the biggest human being.
He's a huge guy.
I mean, I know he's late in his career. He's been around a long time, but you talk about trying to build this culture, the veteran guy. What has he brought and on and off the field for the team?
Unlike Poyer, more so on a football field impact, Calais Campbell's made an impact. I mean, there are stretches of games where he's all over the field, batting passes down, making plays at the line of scrimmage and in the backfield, disrupting quarterbacks and what they want to do. He's still 16, 17 years in, is still a very impactful NFL player. Now, he has to do it on less snaps, obviously. You're not going to have him on there all the time. But there are stretches, Mike, in a game where you look up, batted ball, Calais Campbell. Line of scrimmage, guy drop back, Calais Campbell. Quarterback pressure, Calais Campbell. I mean, he has – and that is the football part of it, the leadership part of it. Walter Payton Man of the Year, you talked about that. I mean, he's great with the media. He's great with teammates. He's just truly been a perfect addition to this team, to this locker room. That they hit a home run to get Calais there. And it's a shame they're 2-5 because it goes a bit more unnoticed than it should. But he's actually made a huge impact on and off the field for the Dolphins.
Jalen Ramsey has been one of the top corners in the league. He's been in Miami now for a while. We talk about where players are, and as things move along, are they still elite? Are they still that type of player? Where would you put Jalen Ramsey?
Still at the top. I mean, he's still one of the best corners in the NFL. And the beauty of Jalen is, you always talk about corners and lockdown corners. You don't throw the direction, and very few people throw in Jalen's direction. But more than that is he'll make his impact. He's chasing down guys in the backfield. He's blitzing the quarterback. And I would expect against Josh Allen in particular, who's such a tough guy to bring down. You want to try to keep him in the pocket. You're trying to contain him. Jalen Ramsey is going to be part of that process of trying to get him down. Jalen Ramsey's been phenomenal at bringing down quarterbacks who are trying to run, at chasing down running backs, and obviously his main role of locking down receivers. He is still, Mike, one of the elite corners in the NFL. He's having, to me, a Pro Bowl type season, all pro type season. He's been that good. Go back to the record in the 2-5 and the struggles there. But when you look at what Jalen Ramsey's done, he's every bit the lockdown corner still, even this far into his career.
And last one on the defense, I always look for somebody that the fans don't know that has stepped up. You lose some players in free agency. You've mentioned all the injuries. And usually there's a guy on a team that people are going, where did he come from? Or I didn't know about him. So, Bills fans know the Dolphins pretty well. but is there somebody on that defense that has stepped up this year and made plays that people are going to start looking and going, who is this guy and where did he come from?
Honestly, the bad part about this, Mike, is the true answer is Zach Sealer, and because he's so underrated. But then he goes out, unfortunately, gets hurt in practice. But he's the guy that there was slowly momentum building to say, hey, this guy is a Pro Bowl type player. Look at the impact this guy's made. He's had to because of all the injuries along the line, of all the injuries, that they've had, that right when you think it's coming together. But again, he falls into that category. But I think Bills fans have seen him enough that they know how good he is. I think in general, NFL fans haven't. There was this whole wave of push here in South Florida. Like, hey, man, let's stop mentioning this guy as an underrated guy. Like, he's not underrated at all. But unfortunately, he gets hurt, which is, I guess, it's fitting, Mike, that's the theme of this team. And it's not to make excuses, because I know Bills fans aren't going to care. They just want to beat the Dolphins and get another win and drop them to 2-6. But there are a lot of pieces that can make an impact on this team that are missing right now. And I don't think there's any bigger than Zach Sealer.
All right, last couple of questions on this. I thought last year when the Bills came down for that last regular season game, that was such a monumental game, really, for both teams. The Bills had struggled. They had that mess going on, and they just found a way to win in Miami. And that sent the Dolphins on the road and had to go out to Kansas City in the crazy cold. And then their season comes to an end.
Yeah.
It's very different now, but it still looks to me, and as you mentioned in the beginning, that this is one of those moments. Let's be honest. Most people are expecting Miami with their 2 wins to come and do what they do, which is lose in Buffalo.
Yep.
How big is this game? I mean, it's big for both teams, obviously. But how big is this game, and what would it mean to the Dolphins, not only to beat the Bills when they're riding pretty high, but maybe to get themselves right back in it?
It's a season saver. I mean, it is. It's not an exaggeration to say that. It is a season saver. This is the way you turn it around. Like, it takes something jarring to turn around a season, not just to squeak out a 1-point win against a bad team. You need to beat a good team. You need to do something unexpected. You need to show signs of life. The Dolphins can't go into Buffalo and play a solid game and just come up short. They played them tough to the end, but we still lost again. No, that can't be the attitude. They have to find a way, Mike. It's as simple as that. And it is going to be a difficult way. It could be what we talked about earlier. Grind it out 40 times. Keep the ball away from Josh Allen. Run for 175 yards with your 3-headed monster at running back. Protect Tua to maybe he's not going to go, throw 40 times for 300 yards, but maybe it's 27 times for 185 yards. You know what I mean? But smart football. Don't turn the ball over. That is the way to win. And if they can do that, it would save their season, Mike. It's almost like I said earlier. It's like a Hail Mary. I mean, you win this game, you're 3-5. You have Tua down the stretch, your final 9 games. You think maybe you can go 7-2, 6-3 in those and have a chance at the playoffs. You lose this, you're 2-6. I don't know how you get out of that hole, Mike. I just don't know how, because now forget the division at that point. What are you, 4.5 games back, when it's all said and done if you lose? But the playoff race in the AFC is going to be tight, and the further you get away, the harder it is to get back in.
Yeah, and from afar, but what's going on here, to see the Bills where they are after letting a bunch of players go, now making some moves, Allen playing very well again. When you look at the Bills, even the team you saw earlier this year, and now they're 6-2 and they've gotten rolling again. What do you think of the Bills?
I mean, you and I have had this discussion, half dozen times, right? When we talk about these playoff or these previews and in playoff games too. But when we talk about the Bills and Dolphins, and you know how big of a fan I am of Josh Allen, even dating back 5-6 years ago when Josh Allen was just first getting started and would play the Dolphins, and you'd see this incredible quarterback. I just think Josh has gotten to the point that nothing surprises me about the Bills, because he is one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league. And when you look at the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, when you look at the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, how these teams are continually winning despite the people around them changing, I feel the same way about Josh Allen. Like, nothing the Bills have done this season surprised me, because in the end, you can move pieces around, you can lose veterans, bring in draft picks, guys get injured. But as long as you have Josh Allen, you're going to be one of the most competitive and best teams in the NFL. And the Bills are just that.
Yeah, well, we'll see what ends up happening this week. The Bills, like you said, in a good spot, but it's a division game. Any fan can just look at what Cleveland just did, going and taking care of Baltimore. When they play these games, they're close. I know you're busy. Like we said, you got you got the heat getting going, and you're following the Dolphins. Let everybody know where they can find you.
You can always find me on social media on Twitter, X, at Will Manso, just my name, and check it out there. We always love chatting with fans, even Bills fans, not Giants fans though. I'm tired of talking about Daniel Jones and the Giants. So
Oh,
don't send me. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a Giants fan. I don't want to talk about any of that.
yeah, it's rough times. They dropped another tough one this week, and I know it hasn't gone.
Story of my life. Yeah,
It's
always a pleasure, Mike.
Well, we appreciate this, and we look forward to the game, and we will certainly catch up with you soon.
You got it. Thanks, Mike.
All right. That's Will Manso from WPLG down in Miami. Always a friend of the Buffalo Plus podcast, and we appreciate it. And we appreciate you for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on Buffalo Plus.